very excited to bring you two remarkable people and to celebrate the life of Carson McCullers, as well as hear some of Suzanne Vega's biggest hits. Joining us tonight, Jason Hart was music director of the Broadway production of American Psycho. He's been on tour with Duncan Sheik and Rufus Wainwright, among others. He's been working on a lot of Broadway shows and pre-Broadway shows. And of course, we're going to be opening tonight with our 11th season with Suzanne Vega. She was born in Santa Monica, California. She grew up in Spanish Harlem and the Upper West Side of New York. At age 11, she picked up a guitar, and as a teenager, she started to write songs. It was 1979 that she attended a concert by Lou Reed and began to find her true artistic voice and distinctive vision for contemporary folk. She has emerged as a leading figure in folk music since the 1980s. She's gone on to win Grammys and Peabodys, and tonight she pays tribute to Carson McCullers, who lived right here in Nyack. Please welcome Jason Hart and Suzanne Vega.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really thrilled to be here. And I'm a little jet-lagged. I just got back from Europe on Wednesday night, but I'm excited to be here, so it'll be fine. So I'd like to start off. I wrote a play about Carson McCullers. Carson McCullers was a writer, and she came from the Deep South. She came from Columbus, Georgia. And I actually started working on this play back when I was in college at Barnard College. And this is, the current version of the play is called Lover Beloved. It's my third iteration of the play. So it's been a project of really of love that has taken a lot of time, which has given me a lot of pleasure. So I'd like to start from the beginning of the play. This first song talks about her advice as a writer. She came out with her first novel in, I think, 1940. It was called The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. It became a huge success right away. She was 23 years old. And she did actually write essays about how to be a writer, what inspired her. So some of the lines come from that essay, and some of the lines just come from her life. This is called Advice to Young Writers. Just sit at your desk 5 hours a day. Go for a walk for an hour. Start with a sherry, end with a gin. A toddy for the body, for the hours within. My advice to all young writers is this. If you want to be a writer like me, first of all you must be fated. Why don't you start with your pen and your heart and the need to know how they're related? You might begin with your story within, but then you long to feel somehow connected. Get into the flows of life as it goes, along on its path unexpected. My advice to all young writers is this. Writing is discipline, writing is art. So even as you seclude, to start morning, noon, and night, you have to write even if you're not in the mood. My advice to all young writers is this. So many things you need to know. All these details tell and show. The New York Times never shows the deal. The Daily News always makes it real. My advice to all young writers is this. Find the divine collusion. Seek out God on your team. Court the fantastic illusion. Create the flowering dream. My advice to all young writers is this. You might begin with your story within, But then you long to feel somehow connected, get into the flows of life as it goes, along on its path unexpected. My advice to all young writers is this: just write. So Carson McCullers had this dream of coming to New York City as a young woman, and that's exactly what she did. She came to New York. For a while she lived in the Village, she lived on the Upper West Side, she ended up out in Brooklyn, and then finally ended up here in Nyack. So this song is about her dreams of coming to New York and of fame and of glory and all of those things that she achieved pretty much by the age of 23. New York is my destination. New York is where I will be from. New York is made for grander things, just like me. I will lunch at the Algonquin, swing by the Plaza, Walton Inn, the Three Arts Club. I'll live there indefinitely, 'cause New York is made for grander things, just like me. Literati, yes, they will love me. Paparazzi, well, could this be? Glitterati, well, they know of me. New York's waiting for me. All of the tales of seduction glittering on the horizon, mountains of fame and fortune and snow, finally. 'Cause New York is made for grander things, just like me. Literati, yes, they will love me. Paparazzi, well, could this be? Glitterati, well, they know of me. New York's waiting for me. Practice at the Parnassus, cram for Columbia classes, ride those Fifth Avenue buses, weave some tale about us. I lost all my money for Juilliard. I hid in the phone booth at Macy's. I slept in a brothel on the way to my destiny. 'Cause New York is made for grander things, just like me. Literati, yes, they will love me. Paparazzi, well, could this be? Glitterati, well, they know of me. New York's waiting for me. And New York is made for grander things, just like me. Thank you. I really had such a great time working on the music for this play. I wrote the music with Duncan Sheik, the composer who did Spring Awakening. And we worked very closely together, and Jason Hart has also worked with Duncan. So I would give Duncan these sort of chores. I would give him a task, and I would say, for example, I want a song that has a kind of Rodgers and Hart feeling, or Rodgers and Hammerstein. I wanted to mention all these places in New York. I wanted to have the rhythm of New York is my destination. And so he came up with this beautiful music that I then wrote the melodies over. Then he would listen to the melodies, and he would sort of tweak them here and there. And I've always find it a great joy to sing these songs, especially because of his music. So I just wanted to share that with you. That last song was written in the museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, because I was looking for a place to write. I couldn't write at home at that time, so I got a patrons lounge membership and sat up there in the patrons lounge and wrote that song up there. So this next song is called The Instant of the Hour After, and it's based on a short story that Carson McCullers wrote. A lot of the language and imagery comes from that story. And it's a story and a song about her relationship with her husband, Reeves McCullers, who she loved very much, but also had a lot of trouble with. Anyway, you'll see what I mean. That's enough out of you tonight, my darling. This show is over for now. The monkey is dead. I detest all this drunken brawling. Now let's see if you can make it into this bed. How I love you. How I loathe you. It's a sharp, quick love I feel, my darling. But you're not as drunk as you seem, so why pretend? On your cheek, that sweet shadow falling. The pulse in your neck, how I'll know it, right to the end. How I love you. How I loathe you. And all you can say is reverberating acuity, lousy simile, vacant majesty. In the instant of the hour after. Well, right now, it's you and me, my darling. Trapped here inside of this bottle, drowning like flies. When the frenzy's over, we're crawling. Specimen spent and exhausted, pressed to the sides. How I love you. How I loathe you. So part of the problem with both of them, because both of them, both Reeves and Carson, had these visions of a kind of humanitarian love, what they called agape love, love of humanity. And they both had that, and they both tried to express that. But they also had a lot of love for other people other than their spouses, of all sexes. They were very kind of, they were free, if not always in body, in their hearts. They were at least free, at least Reeves was free in body and heart and everything else. Carson a little more free in her mind and her heart. Anyway, to make a long story very short, this next song is a song about Anne-Marie Clairac Schwarzenbach, who was probably the love of Carson's life. This was an unrequited love, and this is a song for Anne-Marie.
I saw your face, I knew you'd haunt me for all of my life. Rising above me, if you could want me, I'd be no man's wife. Everyone sees you, everyone knows you. How can I possibly compare? Who could attain you with all of your pain? Who could possibly hold one so fair? Terror, pity, love, Anne-Marie. Brilliant and stormy, her perfect beauty, she moves through the world with money and family. She glitters with trouble. She's that kind of girl. Everyone loves you, everyone wants you. How can I possibly compete? Who could explain you with all of your pain? Who could possibly make you complete? Terror, pity, love, and I could see God, his face would be sacred like yours, Anne-Marie. But God's face is hidden, and your face is suddenly all I can see. Everyone worships you, everyone needs you. How can I possibly complain? Who could contain you with all of your pain? Could I gather up all that you remain? Terror, pity, love, and
Thank you. So as you can imagine, all of this love kind of flowing in all directions made for some very interesting and strange kind of arrangements from time to time. This next song is called The We of Me, which is from Carson McCullers' novel called The Member of the Wedding. And in the book, Frankie Adams wants to join her brother's wedding. She wants to be a member of her brother's wedding. She wants to go with the bride and the groom and be with them wherever they may go. And as you might imagine, it does not end well. But this was also a kind of situation that would play out from time to time in their lives, where they would end up as a kind of threesome in various ways. And that's also what this song is about.
My squeezed heart divides into two wide wings. The world is a sudden place if you don't belong to anything. No one may have got it wrong, 'cause there's one more that could belong. This must be the irony of fate, that I and the world are always separate. All other people have a we to claim, except for me and my own name. I belong to be with the two of you, and we make three as a family. That is why you're the we of me, the we of me. I belong to be with the two of you, and we make three as a family. That is why you're the we of me, the we of me. Noah's Ark admitted only 2 by 2. Now we know this isn't always true, 'cause Noah may have got it wrong. There's one more that could belong. I belong to be with the two of you, and we make three as a family. That is why you're the we of me, the we of me. I belong to be with the two of you, and we make three as a family. That is why you're the we of me, we of me. That is why you're the we of me, the we of me. That is why you're the we of me, the we of me.
So in my play, the first half of the show is Carson McCullers at the age of 23. And the second half takes place just a few months before her death, and she died at 50 years old. She was living here in Nyack. And so even though she had this very self-destructive life, she drank, she smoked, she had many strokes. Her health was always very delicate, but she lasted to 50 years old. And so at the beginning of the second act, she is back and ready to tell you that she is still here. And this song is called In Spite Of, which is the name of a book that she had been working on at that time.
I'm still here, in spite of all I have endured. Through hell I've crawled, like Sarah Bernhardt in World War I. Brave and courageous, she got the job done. Cole Porter too, afflicted like me. The Harkness Pavilion, severed at the knee. In spite of all, in spite of it all, I'm still standing. Everyone told me I would die young. Fate marked me out as fragile and unstrung. Like Frida Kahlo, that wounded soul lived through her art, it made her whole. In spite of all, in spite of it all, I'm still standing. I'm still here, the last one. I persevere, time's moving on. In spite of all, in spite of it all, I'm still standing. In spite of the losses, my daily crosses that I have to bear. I have hope, and I'm still standing. I'm still standing. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Thank you. The particularly weird thing about that song and about the book that she was writing at that time was that she was going to have a part of her leg removed. And so this is part of what she was writing about. So all those other people, Cole Porter, Sarah Bernhardt, also had the same affliction that she had. So this was her book that she was writing. I just thought I'd tell you that. That also is why that little joke at the end is particularly poignant. So we're going to sing one more song, and then I'm going to have Nick Norwood up here. We're going to do a little Q&A. And this song is called Harper Lee. And of course, you probably know who Harper Lee is, right? Who knows who Harper Lee is? I can't really see you, so I'm going to assume that some of you know who she is. She's the writer who wrote, of course, the great classic called To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, Carson McCullers had written a book from the point of view of a young girl in the South that also was about the civil rights movement, but Carson McCullers' book came out 20 years before To Kill a Mockingbird. So as you might imagine, Carson McCullers had a few feelings when that book came out. She had also had a lot of feelings about a lot of other writers of her generation and all the other generations, and so she had a lot of feelings, and there were a lot of writers. And it goes like this.
Virginia Woolf, she leaves me cold. I recognize the genius, but I'm twice as bold. I have more to say than Hemingway. Lord knows, compared to Faulkner, I say it in a better way. Graham Greene, he loves me. He loves my poetic sensibility. Catherine Ann Porter might be the best one now, but in about a year, I'm gonna show her how. Yes, I will. I said to Reeves the other day, Proust really is the man who comforts me in a way no other writer can. The timeless quality of the work, the length is very long. Believe me, Marcel Proust goes on and on and on and on for 7 volumes. Now Harper, Lee, she only wrote the one book. I've written more than 3. Darling Tennessee Williams, it's anybody's guess why Streetcar made millions and Wedding so much less. I will forever be pondering that one. Harper, Lee. Why do they always compare her to me? Won't even talk about Eudora Welty. As for F. Scott, my sad cafe is greater than his Gatsby. I'm just telling you what someone told me they read, 'cause I'd never look at my reviews. They might give me the big head. Now Truman Capote was hypnotized, mesmerized, 'cause he realized that I knew that he had plagiarized my cadences. Imagine his surprise. You'll see it in his eyes when I win that Nobel Prize. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I shall be humble yet gracious. Harper, 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 Lee, Lee, Lee. Why do they always compare her to me, to me? She always seems to be receiving more than she deserves. Honey, she's poaching on my literary preserves. Yes, from Harper Lee we have seen and we've heard, and I'd like to kill more than just that mockingbird. Well, you know, sometimes I really would. So you just wait until next year. And most of those are direct quotes. Except for the last one, which came from Duncan Sheik, actually. That final one, I'd like to kill more than just that mockingbird, that was Duncan's line, which I thought was pretty damn great. Okay, so now I'd like to bring up Nick Norwood. He's the director of the Carson McCullers Center from Columbus State University in Georgia. And here he is. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for this wonderful music. For all of us who are Carson McCullers fans, thank you very much. It's beautiful and
my pleasure.
Lovely and poignant. Thank you all for coming. Thank ArtsRock for collaborating with us on this performance. We're very happy to be here. We're going to open the floor for a little Q&A here in just a minute. I'm going to have a few questions I want to ask our musicians about Carson McCullers. But before that, I wanted to just clarify who we are. I'm the director of the Carson McCullers Center for Writers and Musicians. I'm a professor of creative writing at Columbus State University, and the McCullers Center is an outreach unit of the university. It's one entity with two facilities. Carson McCullers' childhood home in Columbus, Georgia, where it was 99 degrees today, by the way. I'm happy to be here in Nyack. And our other facility is the Carson McCullers House in South Nyack. And we are an arts organization, and our stated mission is to preserve the legacy of Carson McCullers, to promote the arts, and to educate young people. And toward that goal, in Nyack, we have been running a number of programs. We collaborate with River Writer Circle. Some of our friends are here tonight. We have weekly creative writing workshops, and we have hosted a number of poetry readings and other kinds of literary events there. And we've also collaborated with the Nyack Library and with the Nyack Center, and we were going to continue to do those sorts of things here in Nyack. So, thank you. I just feel so lucky that Carson McCullers chose Nyack as a place to live, because I love coming here. I love Nyack. It's a beautiful place, and it's got a great vibe here, and the arts are alive here in Nyack, and that's a thrilling thing. So we have information about the McCullers Center out in the lobby. Please grab a card. Send us an email, mccullercenter.org, so you can be on our mailing list, just so you'll know what we're doing here in Nyack. You can come to our events, okay? So, yeah, I wanted to, I love that last song. I'm surprised you didn't also mention Flannery O'Connor. That's another one that Carson...
She had a great rivalry with.
Yeah, Flannery
It's
O'Connor...
very difficult to rhyme Flannery O'Connor.
Well, it's true. I wanted to, now I've seen a number of interviews. I know that you started reading Carson McCullers when you were 15 years old, when you saw the story Sucker. Or at least that's what I've heard. That's correct. So I wonder, though, if you could just take us back to what was going on in your life when you were. Could you fill it out a little bit more for us? What was going on in your life when you discovered Carson McCullers and you read that story?
Well, at the age of 15, I was studying dance. I was studying dance at the High School of Performing Arts. And I read constantly. I read all the time. I read everything. And I think Sucker was included in an anthology of short stories. And at that time, it really struck me. First of all, I love the title, Sucker. You know, this is the kind of language that I was used to hearing from growing up in East Harlem and the Upper West Side, you know, in the 70s. If you called somebody a sucker, you knew what they meant. So the story really struck me, too, because of Carson McCullers' language. It was very direct. It was also from the point of view of a man. So I thought this was a guy. I thought this was a male writer. Writing about the troubles of being young, of being a young adolescent. And I was shocked to find out later, a couple of years later, that Carson McCullers was a female, and also that the story had been written, I think, in the mid-50s. Or, no, even earlier, actually,
Yeah,
because
it had
one
been
of
written
her
earlier.
first stories.
Right.
So probably 30s?
Yeah, it was.
40s?
It was not published until later,
Right,
but it
wasn't
was
published
written
earlier.
earlier.
It was
Yeah.
written earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, so I thought it was a contemporary story. I thought it was one that had been written in the 1970s. It was probably written in the late 30s. So she was always seemed ahead of her time, and the language that she used was so tough and so direct and so truthful, and it really spoke to me, and that opened up a whole new world a few years later.
And so then you went on to read the other books right away, or
No.
later? No, but later. When you were in college, you were.
When I was in college, I was studying musical theater, and we were given a task one day to come in dressed as someone in the arts who was no longer alive. And I had seen the cover of the Carson McCullers biography that came out around 1978, I think it was.
75 was the original.
The original,
yeah.
okay, so it had just come out in paperback, because
Yeah.
I remember seeing that. So I remember seeing her face and going, oh, that's Carson McCullers, and seeing her haircut and the kind of face she had, and the thought crossed my mind, if I ever needed to play a character, I could probably play that person, whoever that was. I didn't even buy the book or read the book. But after I was given that task, I bought that. I took the book out of the library, and I spent all night reading it, and I made myself a little costume, and I came in the next day dressed as Carson McCullers with my cigarette in hand, and it never left me.
So
Then I read all her stuff.
Okay, and so
After I read her biography.
And so that's really when it sort of began because this has been a project you've been working on for a long time.
A long time, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really given me a lot of pleasure. I can't tell you why, but really I've spent hours like imagining how can I put Carson McCullers' inner life on the stage? How can I put it into song? So it's been almost like a lifetime sort of project, and I still really love it.
Well, that's sort of leads to my other question. I mean, obviously these songs from this album are all about Carson McCullers, but I was just wondering if you feel like McCullers was an influence on your other work, on the other songs that people might have known.
I don't know that it was such a direct influence. I think it was more that I understood the point of view she came from. And so I write from that point of view as well, because, I don't know, for various reasons. But I can't really answer that for you. But I feel that there are some similarities, but there are also some big differences. So
Yeah.
So like that.
Yeah. You may have seen a few years ago, the writer Sarah Schulman wrote a piece in The New Yorker. She's a lesbian writer who had written a number of novels, and she was confronted about cultural appropriation, and it made her rethink a lot what she had done in her own work.
Okay.
And she was a longtime fan of Carson McCullers. And
Yeah.
this piece in The New Yorker,
I saw that, yeah. I
Yeah, she
remember that,
basically says she feels Carson McCullers is a model for writers and artists of our time in the way that she handled characters who run like herself.
Yes.
I just wonder, do you have any thoughts on that? Or?
Well, I personally think that the way she handled, for example, the black character in The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, he's such a specific character. You feel his reality. There's nothing cliched or stereotypical about him. I knew men like this, And I have always thought that at the age of 23, for her to have that kind of empathy where she could put that down on the page was really remarkable. And that was really her gift, was a sense of empathy, especially in her work, not always in her life.
Yeah.
You know, she was pretty mean to the people who were closest to her.
She could be, yes.
Yeah, she could be.
Mm-hmm.
But in her work, there was this incredible sense of empathy. But that's what I feel.
And
Yeah.
you think that's the most enduring legacy of McCullers? Or?
The legacy for me is the kind of message that runs beneath her best work, which is really one of love for humanity. I think that's so vital, and it's something that I was always taught in various ways. I was born in 1959, I received help from others, and I've learned to help others. And I was always taught that's what you do, that's how you live. So I think that message, which must have been very hard for her as a woman in the Deep South in that era, it's only been recently, I think, that she had any sort of acceptance, even in her hometown.
Oh, you can say that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But in spite of all of that, she persisted. You know, she continued till the end of her life to believe in the principles that she believed in, and that's her legacy.
Great. I love this song, Carson's Blues, and the line, I believe it is, I speak to strangers one at a time.
Yes.
I love that line, and I have my own feelings about what it means, but I just wonder if you could speak to more about what you were trying to express through that line.
Well, I think Carson McCullers didn't really see people in stereotypes, at least in her work. They're very, very idiosyncratic and very distinctive. So I don't think she saw people as demographics. She saw them as strangers, but she spoke to them one at a time, and you had this sense that if she could, she would look into each person's eyes. In a sense, she tried to love each person individually. That's probably why she fell in love with so many people. So that's what I meant. It wasn't the sense of a crowd or of, she loved people individually.
Yeah. And you have that great song about Reeves, and it is an interesting relationship. By the way, Susie Parker DeVoe is out there somewhere. I can't see you, but Susie and I have staged twice, once here in Nyack at the Nyack Library and once in Columbus, recently, a reading of the war letters, that were included in the...
They're so beautiful.
They
and
really are.
So passionate between the two of them, yeah.
Absolutely, and it's clear from those letters that she wanted to get back with Reeves as much as he wanted to get back with her. If you don't know the story, they were married. He was the most handsome man I'd ever seen. And she married him, and it was really tumultuous.
Shock of pure beauty.
Yeah,
is what she says, yeah.
And there was a lot of ambiguity in all ways, and a lot of drinking, and then there was a lot of his cashing her royalty checks, and so she divorced him in 1942, and he joined the army. He was a ranger, fought with distinction in the European theater, and she was very proud of him. And they sort of rekindled their romance through letters while he was in the European theater, got remarried in 1945, and then they went right back to the stuff that had got them in trouble to begin with. It's a sad story in that after they had bought a house in France, they had the house here in Nyack, 131 South Broadway, and the house outside of Paris. She says that he wanted to commit joint suicide. And so she got away from him and came back to Nyack. He committed suicide in a hotel room in Paris in 1953. And it's a very poignant song. And I just wondered what you think the relationship with Reeves meant to her work.
I think it meant so much. First of all, when she met Reeves McCullers, he was able to articulate a lot of the theories that she had always felt inside her heart but didn't have the language to say. So one of the things about Reeves was he was a real talker. He was not very good at writing. He wanted to be a writer, but he was great. He was a great talker. And so she learned a lot of theory. She learned about Engels and Marx. She learned about, and so she was able to articulate all of these things through her characters. It gave her work a kind of focus that she after she and Reeves separated ways. I think some of her work did not have that clear focus that it did in the beginning. And also, he just supported her. I mean, yes, he took her royalty checks and cashed them and took her money, but he also cooked for her, cleaned for her, and would do just about any other thing for her as well. But he also slept with her best friends, you know, and her lovers.
There was
there was
yeah.
a lot of, you know.
Yeah.
So there was that, but you know. But he had his other side too. So very complicated.
He also gave her the story Reflections in a Golden Eye. You know, the story of the Peeping Tom.
The Peeping Tom, yeah. But I mean,
Right.
there's one thing to read a story like in the paper or even to know about it. But what she did with that story was absolutely hallucinogenic.
Amazing, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we want to open the floor to some questions from you guys out there. I think, Elliot, are you out there? Were you going to go around with your thing? So, okay, there we go. That's a lot better. So if anyone has a question, not for me, but for Lisa or for me. Okay, yeah.
Yes, Elliot.
So you were there for the first time today. You'd never gotten inside the Carson McCullers house here in Nyack. Just what were your thoughts as you walked around the house?
I thought, wow, I'm inside. I had been outside, and that was several years ago. And when as the bus drove up and we stopped, and I said to myself, I wonder if I'm going to get some kind of sign from Carson, because you know I've been working on this project so long. And I took out my iPhone and I went to take a photograph of the house, and just at that moment, my phone went dead. And there was no reason for it to be dead. It was fully charged. And so I'm sitting there like punching it and slapping it around. I'm like, what? How am I supposed to get this going again? And it took about 5 to 10 minutes for it to wake up again. So I think it was Carson's spirit giving me grief for taking so long to get there. Once I got in and I walked around, and some of it seemed so familiar because I know all the paintings and all of the some of the pieces of furniture, the photographs that have been there. So it was very interesting. Then there's some other strange details like the lampshades that were sort of unexpected, and I felt a bit of her ghost there. Anyway, that's how I felt, slightly haunted.
Anybody else? Yes, stand up.
What role did music play in Carson McCullers' life?
Carson McCullers was a musician. That's how she began her life. She began by playing the piano. And she was a terrific classical pianist. And she loved classical music especially. And she, one of the first time she came to New York, it was to study at Juilliard, where she had been accepted as a student, and then she lost all of her money. She gave it to a friend to hold, and then she never saw that money again, and decided to take up writing at Columbia instead. But she was a child prodigy. She used to practice for hours and hours before school and after school, and I think also the stress of it really got to her. But music was meant so much to her.
Here, one over here.
I grew up in Nyack and moved away for a little while and read Remember the Wedding, and then totally identified with Frankie. Had a big impact on me.
Yeah.
I moved back to Nyack, and I found out that she was from here.
Yep.
She lived here when I lived here.
Oh.
And lived like next to friends of ours. But I, wasn't aware of her when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I just wondered, what was her life like in Nyack? Did she have friends here? Was she a part of the community? Did people make a big deal out of her? Like, what was her life like in Nyack?
She had friends. She also rented out the top floors of her house. She had some friends, and friends would visit her. But she was also very sick at that time, especially as she got older. There are scenes from her biography where she was 80 pounds and dressed in sort of this like little white gauzy thing, sort of this dress type thing, and she would make her way down Main Street to go to the drugstore. And so in some ways she was also kind of a freak. So I don't know that she was warmly embraced by everybody in the community, but I think there were many that were probably aware of her great gifts. I think she finished member of the wedding in Nyack. There's the plaque says that that's where she finished it. But for her later years, I think she was not ostracized, but not quite embraced. She probably spent a lot of time at home and in bed. A lot of freaks in Nyack. Okay, good to know. Okay, all right.
She was friends with Helen Hayes, and she was friends with Marielle Banku, the artist who lived next door at Greystone Manor. Yeah. And she was friends, of course, with Mary Mercer, Dr. Mary Mercer, who was a child psychiatrist here in Nyack. And it's the one who willed to the Carson McCullers Center the house and all of the things that we have, and that's why we're here. And so those who were some people who were very close to us. And as I was explaining to Suzanne today, the artist Henry Varnum Poor, who lived in New City, is very close friends with Carson. And when you read those war letters, there are many mentions of them having meals with the Poors, or the Poors coming to her house. So those were some of her friends here. Yeah.
We certainly want to hear you sing some more, but time for maybe one more question. Anybody else? Yeah. Stand up.
Hi. Are there any plans, or have you ever staged the play, or are there any plans to stage the play?
The play has been staged 3 times. So the last time was last year in its final version. It was called Lover Beloved, and it had a premiere down in Houston, Texas at the Alley Theater. And it ran for 4 weeks there. So the present plans are to make a film of the play in November, and it's probably going to be filmed in Austin, Texas. The director is named Michael Tully, and that's the current state of things. And I'll see what happens after that. Yeah. So if there's any news, I'll try and put it up on the website, and so people can see where we take it from there. But thanks for asking.
And before we conclude, Nick, just what's coming up next at the Carson McCullers Center here?
Well, we have a whole season of readings that we're going to be putting on later this fall and in the spring. So I invite you to see the Carson McCullers Center website or the River Writers Circle website to find out about those events. And we also have weekly community-based workshops with River Writers Circle at the McCullers House. That's on Friday night at 6:30. So if you're a creative writer and you would like to join a community of other writers, please come just any Friday night to the Carson McCullers House, 131 South Broadway, and River Writers Circle. Be happy to see you. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Nick. And so I'm going to do a few more songs from the play, and then I'll do some of my own songs. So this is a song called Eyes Upon the Man. It's a song I think that will ultimately be cut from the play, but it's one that I enjoy and Jason enjoys playing. And it's a song written for Arnold St. Suber, who was famous for having written the play or having had the idea for Kiss Me Kate. And he had encouraged Carson McCullers to write her play, The Square Root of Wonderful, which was a great failure. It was her biggest professional failure. And she also fell madly in love with St. Suber. So all of that is in this song. It's called Eyes Upon the Man.
It's easy to blame Arnold St. Suber with his angelic face and his beautiful hair, but I won't. He insisted that I write the square root of wonderful, see? The original plan was to write a light play, a comedy, but suddenly I found day by day, inch by inch, I just stared as it all fell away. The square root of tragedy it was, the square root of terrible. It was my greatest professional failure. I look back and root things I'd rather forget. Passion can lead to these deeds we regret. Sometimes I wish I never had set eyes upon the man. Would I do it all again? Yes, I'd do it all again, because how could we know? It's as though he showed up at my door with a whip, a tiny one, but still he held me in his grip, and anyone could see that it all had to slip. The square root of nothing it was, the square root of not much. It was my greatest professional failure. I look back and root things I'd rather forget. Passion can lead to these deeds we regret. Sometimes I wish I never had set eyes upon the man. Would I do it all again? Yes, I'd do it all again, because how could we know?
So in a sense, she's really talking about her husband there also. This is a song called Lover, Beloved, and it's based on that famous theory that Carson McCullers wrote about love. She wrote it in The Ballad of the Sad Cafe, and I really feel that it is in its essence about herself and her husband and the way they could not finally connect and stay connected.
Lover, beloved, behold each of these. The lover pursues, the beloved one flees. Lover, beloved, from countries apart, each one alone in the land of the heart. Each one alone in the land of the heart. Lover, beloved, forever strip bare. Turn in the night, and it's he who is there. Liar and lover and hero and thief. Turn in the night, and he brings no relief. Brother or husband, he brings no relief. The man across the sticks will send flowers from beyond the end. The man across the sticks will be her lover for eternity. Lover, beloved, her brave cavalier, all of his love raising hatred and fear. Lover, beloved, each craving the touch, each bears the burden of loving too much. Each bears the burden of loving too much. The man across the sticks will send flowers from beyond the end. The man across the sticks will be her lover for eternity. Lover, beloved, behold each of these. The lover pursues, the beloved one flees. Lover, beloved, from land of the heart.
So here's the final song of the play, and it contains her ethos, what she believed. And I think really what she always believed. It's not what she was always able to practice, but it's all sort of spelled out there in her first book, In the Heart is a Lonely Hunter. And I always think of this song, especially at Thanksgiving. And it's called Carson's Last Supper.
I love the world, sometimes it loves me. The love of my life is humanity. The rich and the poor, the broken and whole, all come together, feeding the soul. Each one belongs at this feast. Drink to the pleasures and drink for the pains. Drink for the losses and drink to the gains. The humble, the twisted, the proud, and the grand. The sinner, the sinned against. This is my stand. Each one belongs at this feast. Come and be at this table. Come and take what is mine to share with you. And if you're able, you must give what is thine to give, thine to give forever. Living as one solid body together. Drink to the pleasures and drink for the pain. Drink for the losses and drink for the gains. The humble, the twisted, the proud, and the grand. The sinner, the sinned against. This is my stand. Each one belongs at this feast. Come and be at this table. Come and take what is mine to share with you. And if you're able, you must give what is thine to give, thine to give forever. Living as one solid body together. Come and be at this table. Come and take what is mine to share with you. And if you're able, you must give what is thine to give, thine to give forever. Living as one solid body together. I love the world, sometimes it loves me. The love of my life is humanity.
Thank you very much. Well, thanks. When I gave that task to Duncan, I said, Duncan, can you write me a song that's kind of like a hymn, like you might sing in church, but also a bit like a drinking song, like you might sing in a bar? And that's what he came up with, and I thought it was really good, a really good melody. I wanted to just read to you. I sang one verse twice. The second verse is one strong true purpose, no thought of return, no rest or hope of rest, the visions still burn, each one belongs at this feast. So I just wanted to share that with you because I love singing that song. So that is my Carson McCullers project. Thank you, Jason Hart. So you can just like take it easy. I usually sing this at the beginning. But we're singing it now. Here's a song I wrote as a young woman. Back when I had posters on my wall. I guess I still do. I had a big photograph of a big magazine cover of Sting. Yeah. And right next to Sting
So did I.
was... Oh, really? Did you really? That's really funny. I didn't know. Did you have Marlene Dietrich up there too? No? Just Sting. All right. So here we go. Even if I am in love with you, all this to say, what's it to you? Observe the blood, the rose tattoo of the fingerprints on me from you. Other evidence has shown that you and I are still alone. We skirt around the danger zone and don't talk about it later. Marlena watches from the wall. Her mocking smile says it all as she records the rise and fall of every soldier passing. But the only soldier now is me. I'm fighting things I cannot see. I think it's called my destiny that I am changing. Marlena on the wall. Well, I walked to your house in the afternoon by the butcher shop with the sawdust strewn. Don't give away the goods too soon is what she might have told me. And I tried so hard to resist when you held me in your handsome fist and reminded me of the night we kissed and why I should be leaving. Marlena watches from the wall. Her mocking smile says it all as she records the rise and fall of every soldier passing. But the only soldier now is me. I'm fighting things I cannot see. I think it's called my destiny that I am changing. Marlena on the wall. And even if I am in love with you, all this to say, what's it to you? Observe the blood, the rose tattoo of the fingerprints on me from you. Other evidence has shown that you and I are still alone. We skirt around the danger zone and don't talk about it later. And I tried so hard to resist when you held me in your handsome fist and reminded me of the night we kissed and of why I should be leaving. Marlena watches from the wall. Her mocking smile says it all as she records the rise and fall of every man who's been here. But the only one here now is me, fighting things I cannot see. I think it's called my destiny that I am changing, 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 changing. Marlena watches from the wall. Her mocking smile says it all. She records the rise and fall of every soldier passing. But the only soldier now is me, fighting things I cannot see. I think it's called my destiny that I am changing. Marlena on the wall. Well, thanks. We'll do another one, I think. This song is called In Liverpool. It was written for a guy I knew who was from Liverpool. And I happened to be reading The Hunchback of Notre Dame at the same time that I was myself in Liverpool, wondering what had become of this man. And so when you hear the chorus about the boy in the belfry, he's ringing the bell. That's why he's jumping down from the top of the tower. He's holding onto the bell, and he's ringing the bell by jumping down. He's not trying to commit suicide. So I just wanted to clarify that ahead of time, because people ask, you know.
In Liverpool on Sunday, no traffic on the avenue. The light is pale and thin like you. No sound down in this part of town, except for the boy in the belfry. He's crazy, he's throwing himself down from the top of the tower. Like a hunchback in heaven, he's ringing the bells in the church for the last half an hour. And he sounds like he's missing something or someone that he knows he can't have now. And if he isn't, I certainly am homesick. 4 o'clock, that told the same time. Sometimes you made no sense to me. If you lie on the ground in somebody's arms, you probably swallow some of their history. And the boy in the belfry, he's crazy, he's throwing himself down from the top of the tower. Like a hunchback in heaven, he's ringing the bells in the church for the last half an hour. And he sounds like he's missing something or someone that he knows he can't have now. And if he isn't, I certainly am. I'll be the girl who sings for my supper. You'll be the monk whose forehead is high. He'll be the man who's already working, spreading a memory all through the sky. In Liverpool on Sunday, no reason to even remember you now, except for the boy in the belfry. He's crazy, he's throwing himself down from the top of the tower. Like a hunchback in heaven, he's ringing the bells in the church for the last half an hour. And he sounds like he's missing something or someone that he knows he can't have now. And if he isn't, I certainly am. In Liverpool, in Liverpool,
Thank you. Thank you so much. So here's a song that you might remember.
my name is Luka. I live on the second floor. I live upstairs from you. Yes, I think you've seen me before. If you hear something late at night, some kind of trouble, some kind of fight, just don't ask me what it was. Just don't ask me what it was. Just don't ask me what it was. I think it's 'cause I'm clumsy. I try not to talk too loud. Maybe it's because I'm crazy. I try not to act too proud. And they only hit until you cry. After that, you don't ask why. You just don't argue anymore. You just don't argue anymore. Just don't argue anymore. Yes, I think I'm okay. I walked into the door again. If you ask, that's what I'll say. It's not your business anyway. I guess I'd like to be alone, with nothing broken, nothing thrown. Just don't ask me how I am. Just don't ask me how I am. Just don't ask me how I am. My name is Luka. I live on the second floor. I live upstairs from you. Yes, I think you've seen me before. If you hear something late at night, some kind of trouble, some kind of fight, just don't ask me what it was. Just don't ask me what it was. Just don't ask me what it was. They only hit until you cry. After that, you don't ask why. You just don't argue anymore. Just don't argue anymore. Just don't argue anymore.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Elliot Forrest and Nick Norwood for having me here. I'd like to thank Jason Hart for accompanying me. And I'd like to thank you for coming out. It's been really great. If you're interested in the album, you can get it from Amazon, or you can get it on various streaming, whatever your favorite streaming source is. So it's called Lover, Beloved, Songs from an Evening with Carson McCullers. And so I hope to see you again soon. And I'd like to close with this song.
I am sitting in the morning, the diner on the corner. I am waiting at the counter for the man to pour the coffee, and he fills it only halfway. And before I even argue, he is looking out the window at somebody coming in.
You can sing the chorus if you want. All right. Okay. Well, now you know for next time.
It is always nice to see you, says the man behind the counter to the woman who has come in. She is shaking her umbrella, and I look the other way as they are kissing their hellos, and I'm pretending not to see them, and instead I pour the milk. I open up the paper, there's a story of an actor who had died while he was drinking. It was no one I had heard of, and I'm turning to the horoscope and looking for the funnies when I'm feeling someone watching me, and so I raise my head. There's a woman on the outside looking inside. Does she see me? No, she does not really see me, 'cause she sees her own reflection. And I'm trying not to notice that she's stitching up her skirt, and while she's straightening her stockings, her hair has gotten wet. This rain, it will continue through the morning as I'm listening to the bells of the cathedral. I am thinking of your voice and of the midnight picnic once upon a time before the rain began. And I finish up my coffee, and it's time to catch the train. Thank you.
Well, thanks, you guys. You want another one? All right. Do you remember
how you walked with me down the street into the square, how the women selling rosemary press the branches to your chest, promise luck and all the rest, put their fingers in your hair. I had met you just the day before, like an accident of fate. In the window there behind your door, how I wanted to break into that place beneath the skin, but all that would have to wait. In the Carmen of the Martyrs, with the statues in the courtyard, whose heads and hands were taken in the burden of the sun, I had come to meet you with a question in my footstep. I was going up a hillside, the journey just begun. My sister says she never dreams at night. There are days when I know why. Those possibilities within her sight, with no way of coming true, 'cause some things just don't get through into this world, although they try. In the Carmen of the Martyrs, with the statues in the courtyard, whose heads and hands were taken in the burden of the sun, I had come to meet you with a question in my footstep. I was going up the hillside, the journey just begun. And all I know of you is in my memory, and all I ask is you remember me.
Thank you so very much. I'll see you next time. Mwah. Thank you.
Even if I am in love with you, all this to say what's it to you? Observe the blood, the rose tattoo of the fingerprints on me from you. Other evidence has shown that you and I are still alone. We skirt around the danger zone and don't talk about it later.